I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We have a writers group that meets here at the library, so there are some people that are in that group. So I thought maybe you could share a little bit with them about your writing schedule, and you have a young son, how you work around that, and what advice would you give to people who are writers that are trying to break through today?
My first advice would be do not give birth in the middle of your first draft. That slows. People are like, why did it take you so long to write the book? So my writing schedule is, I try to keep it pretty sort of 9 to 5 and kind of confined, just so it does kind of stay compartmentalized. I used to write before I had my son, middle of the night, all different hours, and that's just not conducive with having a 2-year-old. So we have a little mother-in-law kind of downstairs area that you actually have to go outside to get to in our house, and that's my office. And it's kind of awesome because you have to go through this unfinished basement that literally looks like it's out of Silence of the Lambs. It's like leaking walls and this weird old creepy sink and people's leftover hand tools from the previous century and a root cellar that I'm sure contains awful things in it. And so I get to work scared already because I have to run through the basement. So then I'm like really ready to work. I drink a lot of coffee. I make myself sit in a chair. And I think partly I'm lucky because of my training as a journalist. I had worked for a weekly magazine for 10 years, and you learn then that you can't wait for the muse to come. Like you have to write every day, and whether you feel like it or not. And so it's good. It's almost like exercise. It's like anything that you make yourself do. The more you make yourself do it, the easier it gets and becomes kind of a habit. So I think I'm lucky in that sort of way. And I don't do a word count, or I have to write 1,000 words a day or this many pages or anything, because then I've found that I start writing out of panic. I start, gotta make my page, and I stop thinking about whether it's good or whether it's progressing the story, and so, I usually think in terms of scenes. Like, this is the scene I need to write today. I'm gonna kind of approach it this way, and then I'm also a big fan of puttering around a little bit. I think you also have to know when to back away from I write on a computer, when to back away from the computer and give yourself a little room to think. So I'll go on a long walk, I'll play some Galaga.
Galaga too.
and sometimes, when you let your brain off the leash a little bit, I find I've had some of my best breakthrough moments that way. And then I write to the end of the day, kind of reread what I've done, and then I try to be since I do write kind of such dark stuff, that I take about 10 minutes before I go back up to the real world. And we have a phrase in our house, which is leave the crazy downstairs. It's like you've got decompress, get it out of your system, especially with Gone Girl, which was dealing with such a nasty marriage and marital combat, that it was important to leave that behind and go upstairs. So I very often I pull up on YouTube the song and dance number Moses Supposes with Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain, because it just makes me so happy. And I never fail. I've watched that a million times, and every time I'm just like, ha. And then I go up and I'm happy. So, it's like, you leave the crazy downstairs.
So okay, that's the advice. Leave the crazy
downstairs.
Leave the crazy,
separate the crazy.
You mentioned about writing scenes, and it made me think about, I guess Dark Places is going to be a movie, they're saying, with Amy Adams. How is that process of selling your book, to the screen? Or you're not going to be working on the screenplay, or are you?
I'm not. It's already been adapted, actually. Okay. It's a wonderful director who directed and adapted the book Sarah's Key, for anyone who's read it.
We did it as a book club book here.
Oh, perfect. And that's, I had great conversations with him. I saw the movie, which does this beautiful job of going back and forth in time, which is key for Dark Places, and has some wonderful child actors, which is key for Dark Places, and this amazing sense of place. And I was sold. You know, he and I had just had a really good connection, and I felt very comfortable that he wanted to make a book that was, or make a movie that was faithful to the book. You know, not slavishly faithful, but that he liked. He wasn't going to turn it into a horror movie, or he wasn't going to turn it into, you know, some outright, you know, slasher, you know, which, yeah, exactly. That he was gonna, that he liked the more melancholy parts of it. He liked the emotional parts of it too, and not just hacking up people in the house. Which, there's a time and place for that too, but yeah. So I've already, you know, he's been really kind to keep me in the loop, and I met him in Kansas City and gave him a tour. And
are they going to film it on location?
They're going to film. He's hoping to film a couple days. Like, Kansas City doesn't have a huge film infrastructure, so it actually costs a lot of money to film there. So I think most of it will be done somewhere else. But he's very sure that he wants to do certain scenes and certain establishing shots there. And I mean, he loved all the different parts that I showed him. So it was really fun.
That's nice to hear, because so many times you hear authors say, I hated the director, and we'll see what happens. And Amy Adams apparently is going to be in it, and she's totally adorable. So, who are your favorite authors? And tell us about something you're reading right now, too.
I read pretty much everything by Joyce Carol Oates, which that's its own hobby unto itself, since she publishes so often. It's like, there's another book out. Margaret Atwood, I love. I love Martin Amis, James Ellroy. I love Dennis Lehane. I just finished reading Megan Abbott's new book, which is called Dare Me. That comes out at the end of July, which is absolutely fantastic. She's got a great dark sensibility that I really love.
I'll have a lot of holds on that by the end of the night. Thank you. And then I want to let everybody have a chance to ask some questions, but I cannot let you go without asking you to share some of your favorite memories at the library.
I have an absolutely fantastic memory at the Wicker Park Library, not far from our house, which was when I was writing Dark Places. I had, for those of you who read it, Libby Day, who's the narrator, has a very nasty personality. She's another troubled soul. But when I started writing it, I was very aware, coming off Sharp Objects, that I had just written a narrator who was already troubled, and so I, you know, she's the survivor of her family's massacre, and she's lived kind of on her own on a series of sort of foster homes and that sort of thing forever. And I was wary of writing another dark narrator, and so I wrote much of a first draft with her as this incredibly perky, go-getter, proactive gal who, you know, is going to get down to the bottom of her family's murder, and her best friend was her child psychologist, and they hung out all the time. And so I gave it to my husband to read, and you know, so the three different points of view. There's been the brother who may have killed people, and the mother, and he's like, these are all good. Like, the mom's solid, Ben's solid, and then I knew it was going to be kind of bad, because he starts walking over to the wine cabinet. He's like, so tell me about Libby. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, how do you feel about Libby? Oh, I hate her. I mean, you would have thought she'd done, like, she was a person who had done me wrong. I was just like, she's so boring, she's so stupid, and can you believe her? And he said, yeah. He's like, you can tell you don't like writing her, and she doesn't feel real. And then we finished the wine, and I deleted all her scenes. I just got rid of them. I didn't try to save anything, but I was nervous I was really freaked out at that point, and I said, I can't stay in the house. Like, I'm not gonna be able to work. Now I am panicked, and I will open more wine. So I started going to the Wicker Park Library every day, and I would make myself get out of the house, and I would stroll along the bookshelves, and I would literally kind of touch Joyce Carol Oates, like the spine of her book for inspiration and help and aid, and like visit my favorite writers and sneak in a few Skittles. I'm sorry to say, and I got her stuff done there, and it was such a refuge to me to be in that wonderful reading room, just day after day, kind of surrounded by books that I love. So yeah, that's my good memory.
That's a good one.